Welcome, students. This is the screencast recording for Chapter 6 in our textbook, Congenital Diseases and Disorders. And as you can see from this first slide, congenital abnormalities are also called birth defects. Genetics are the cause or substances that influence genetics. And I wish we had more time in this class to talk about a subject called epigenetics. Hopefully I'll touch on it later on, but don't worry about it now. Let me just have planted the epigenetic seed. Teratogen is a substance that causes malformation during pregnancy, and this, of course, can lead to a birth defect. There are some congenital heart defects. Some we call acyanotic, which means there is no mixing of poorly oxygenated blood with blood entering the systemic circulation. There are cyanotic defects, which means that poorly oxygenated blood mixes with blood re-entering the systemic circulation. One that I have highlighted for you to take a further look at is the tetralogy of flow. I think it's an interesting report. It's called a tetralogy because it involves 4 disorders. So it kind of brings together several factors, and if you review this, you should have a better understanding of what these congenital defects are and what they can lead to. Another hereditary condition is sickle cell anemia. And this is an example of an autosomal recessive genetic condition. I included some review of genetics for you, so I hope that these terms are familiar to you. If not, please review and contact me if you have questions, of course, about this. Here are some links to explain this disease and its connection to resistance to malaria. I want you to think about the significance of the persistence of this trait in our population, which groups are particularly possessing this trait, and why do you think this trait has persisted? I think if you review all of this and see how and where this developed and the connection to resistance to malaria, and we will have more discussion about this later on. Nervous system diseases and disorders can involve neural tube defects, which occur in the first month of pregnancy due to the failure of the neural tube to close. Just to review, the neural tube is what houses the spinal cord. Here are some of the conditions: spina bifida, meningeocele, and myelomeningocele. These conditions are the result of the failure of the complete closure of the bones surrounding the neural tube, so the spinal column. Folic acid seems to prevent these occurrences. So the question I want you to think about is, how will this knowledge assist you with your patients? And here's a link to the Spina Bifida Association that you can click on later on for some more information. Here's another nervous system disorder, cerebral palsy, which is a permanent bilateral, which of course means it affects both sides of the body, non-progressive paralysis. Non-progressive means that the paralysis that the individual has at birth will not progress. This is also a result of developmental defects of the brain. It could be trauma during or after the birth process, and could involve lack of oxygen during the birth process. There are spastic forms or athetoid forms. In athetoid forms, the individual has very little control over either hypertonic or hypotonicity of their muscles, which means they have great difficulty, if they're able to at all, to contract or relax their muscles. Again, here's the link for more information. Much of the information I present to you in this class, as you may have learned by now, and as I have communicated to you before is reference for you. And these should help you. I hope these are helpful to you, not only for this class and the work that we are doing in this class, but also for you to pick and choose in your future career or your future studies. There are also digestive disorders. We are not talking or touching upon all of the congenital disorders that occur, rather trying to get you to understand how they develop, perhaps some of the causes, and familiarize yourself with some of them and know how to find information. I want you to think about how these conditions could affect a young child's development. Cleft lip and or cleft palate, which is a defective closure of the soft or hard palates. Tracheoesophageal fistula, which is an abnormal connection between the esophagus and the trachea. Or esophageal atresia, the esophagus is not completely formed. Or pyloric stenosis, which is a narrowing of the pylorus. All of these could involve the lack of delivery of nutrition to a young child. So consider how this could affect a young child's development. Malrotation of the volvulus. The intestines are malformed. This usually occurs during the 10th week of pregnancy. Hirschsprung disease, which is obstruction and dilation of the colon, sometimes with feces not being able to move through properly. And omphalocele involves the navel. Some reproductive system disorders. Cryptorchidism. This is the failure of the testes to descend or to descend properly. From what you know about the reproductive system, which you have studied in Human Body Systems 1, think about how this could affect the future, especially the future fertility of the individual if this condition is not corrected. And here are some different types of cryptorchidism, what we call true cryptorchidism, and you can see the location of the testes, or ectopic. Here are some musculoskeletal diseases. Muscular dystrophy, which is a progressive wasting. Again, this is bilateral, occurring on both sides. This is an X-linked inherited disorder, not an autosomal disorder. Think about what these differences mean and how this may explain why more males have this condition than females. So review if you don't remember X-linked, and I have included references for you in our course, a little bit of review of genetics. And here is a link to a website dealing with muscular dystrophy. Again, be sure to contact me if you have questions. More metabolic or some metabolic disorders. Cystic fibrosis. This is an exocrine gland disorder in which copious amounts of mucus clog bronchi, lungs, pancreas, and other organs as well. This disease affects multiple organs and organ systems. So think about what's going on here and think about why this condition would affect multiple organs. And again, here's a link for more information. Some of our discussion will include why this condition, why this disease affects multiple organ systems. Down syndrome, also called trisomy 21, involves an extra chromosome number 21 or extra pieces of chromosome number 21. Is the age of the mother considered to be a factor? Read the information from the link below for a complete picture of the syndrome and see what the latest discussion is about the age of the mother and why age of the mother could be important in this condition. Fetal alcohol syndrome. This is a condition that is preventable if the pregnant woman refrains from alcohol. It affects physical, mental, behavioral aspects of the child and it's caused by the consumption of alcohol by the mother during pregnancy. And I have some links to more discussion about this disease. How will the knowledge of this help you with your clients? And when do you think the most critical time for a fetus would be? Early in pregnancy or later in pregnancy? And perhaps you can explain. Now we really do invoke the total precautionary principle and advise women to abstain from alcohol completely during the course of their total pregnancy, and even when they are attempting to become pregnant or have gone off their birth control, if they are practicing birth control. It may be that there are some more critical times and other times, but the best precaution is to abstain from alcohol when a fetus might be present. All right, that is the end of this. Please, again, do contact me if you have any questions. Notice these PowerPoints provide an overview for you, and we will be having more discussion, and I want to hear from you and hear your questions, and we will be discussing things in forums and student question forums and some wiki case studies that will be coming along a little bit later in the term after the first 3 weeks. We're now at the end. If you're watching this, we're probably at the end of our 3rd week. So I will hear from you and chat with you later.